Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir, and thank you, PhD, for inviting me here. I can assure you, people sitting in the panel are all most qualified, more qualified than me in terms of understanding the technology. So, what do I bring? Passion of a crazy man, trying to understand policy which he himself doesn't understand, and still dream of India becoming a drone hub. So that's the craziness I have without understanding the system. So that's a problem. Okay, so one observation made by uh, Sri Shekhar, God cannot ask us what we did not do. So it is us we have to ask ourselves. So I'll do what we have not done it. So I'll take that mantle of asking the tough questions. The Commodore Golaya said track. There is another, he said course and speed. I'll bring the third definition called track. You're on the same course, but you're getting drifted. So I think our drone industry is getting drifted, and we need to do the come on a correct track. You know, I'm heading for you, but wind is pushing me, so I've started going that side. How do I do course correction so I reach the drone hub destination? And Sai said anything but China, but I would like you to dream about anything but India. And next, not violating the IPR is in our blood, what Chair said. But I think nobody told us not to innovate, not to modify, not to upgrade, not to develop indigenous variants. So I think this part is missing. Uh, one more observation he made is we had a weightage category. How often we exercise that provision? So now I come to my next point. Okay, so Chair told me I have to speak on some aspects. Testing, verification, certification and validation in drone technology. So how do we do that? Here I would like to highlight one part. We talk so much about defense. You know how many ministries we have in India? 54. And defense is one ministry. What about 53 ministries? What are we doing about that? Defense gets overhyped. Last year, 2023, we bought $3.9 billion MQ-9 deal, and we bought 1150 aircraft for 115 billion. The 3.9 billion was in news, 115 billion was not in news. So I come back to that. Civil drone testing facilities. We have talked about defense testing infrastructure scheme. I want my civilian youngster not to go to defense and just test it in his area around it. So we need civil drone testing infrastructure. What will this infrastructure mean? It will mean it is transparent, that infrastructure like Amazon. I want to create an Amazon of civil drone testing infrastructure. You select it, identify operational capability, select a slot, go and test it. Then I want economical. You know, the benefits you get of using Amazon versus haggling with the auto driver. Operating environment, what Sai said, high altitude, coastal area, corrosion areas, deserts. So we need testing facilities, civil drone testing facilities in those areas. Operating envelope. I just don't want to operate around circuit. I want to fly 100 kilometers, come back, and maybe 1000 kilometers to test my drones. So there has to be mechanism. 1000 kilometers in India is impossible to obtain, but there has to be mechanism where we can have a mechanism of accessing that site and testing our operation. I should be able to go up to 20,000 feet. Why 20,000 feet? I want to go test my high altitude pseudo satellite. So how do we do it? So we need that mechanisms, and I think that should be led by Mr. Civil Aviation. And we need verification of emerging technologies. How many trials we have done after BVLS, which was first promulgated in 2020? There are a number of technologies. I published many papers where all those mechanisms, time-bound, funding, everything was given. How many of you have read those papers to really analyze and ask for it? So they say child doesn't get a milk if it doesn't cry. So I think our industry is not crying in the right direction. BVLS, UTM, AM, eVTOL policies were formed without trials. How has it come? Are we following? We need a change. As I said, I am asking questions. Validation, remote tracking, detect and avoid, UAM, AM, UTM, some are ready, some are not ready. But somebody has to validate. That data has to be preserved. We need to have a mechanism of preserving that data. Then only we can move forward. Indigenous content has come, so I have mentioned it at two places. How do we verify? How do we validate? People have claimed 90% indigenous content, 70% indigenous content. And why? Because we have a flawed mechanism of going by cost. If a European sitting in Europe can get thing manufactured and his product does not get compromised, I think we can find me. Are we not bright enough? Certification of emerging technologies. Graphene battery is one such example. There can be many. They are struggling to certify the graphene batteries, and there are many. Why are we the followers? Why are we not the leaders? Drone components. Everyone knows drone components. They are manufacturers. How do they certify? What are the So when I was talking to one professor, he said, "Have you articulated the systems requirement?" I said, "Sir, I don't know." He explained it to me something. So we are not working hard in core area. So there will be few companies working on it, but they have to find mechanism suggested to us. Formulate trial-based Indian standards. We did trials of BBULS, but standards has taken 4 years. How do we reduce the timeline? What mechanisms are needed? Do we have the entity in the Ministry of Civil Aviation which can really take the trial data and formulate into policy in 6 months or so? If we don't, then we need to find ways of solving this problem. Again, we come down to certification of indigenous content. Everybody says we can't do it. I think we are not thinking enough. We can deliberate on it. Why reforms are needed? We need civil drone technology ownership. If somebody can explain me who has the ownership of drone technology, I will try to understand. Most of the entities view themselves, in India we are more used to regulation than the technology development collaborators. You look at the FAS, there were 7 drone testing sites. FAS is a member in the design development testing validation, and we need such mechanisms in India if really India has to become a drone power hub. Atmanirbharta policy. We have a national drone Atmanirbharta policy being set by our Prime Minister. We don't have a drone Atmanirbharta policy and we want to become a drone hub. We need to think like that. R&D initiatives. Where there are real R&D initiatives to validate the real-time tracking. The technologies are there, people are using it. But somebody has to validate the data and see, okay, this is what we can articulate into operationalization. UTM development or operationalization. 2 years ago, there was the inauguration of UTM demonstration. After that, what happened? It's because we don't have a technology validation and ownership mechanism in India. Digital sky, aspirational thing. Now we are thinking of moving to EGCA. What is EGCA? It's a regulatory mechanism. Approvals and other thing. We need data. We need validation. So I think this reform, digital sky is a great operational contact technology. We need to see how it becomes successful. 6 more points, quickly I'll do it. Trial and adoption of these technologies, which UAM, UTM, AM. Mechanism for collation of data, as I said earlier, for policy formulation. BVLS to trials to policy promulgation, reduction of gaps. I've already covered eVTOL, drone component I've covered, ICCM I've covered. Okay. User reps in design teams of civil, military, indigenous drone development programs. Who are these users? Defense forces. Still there. Like General Man was here, probably I think one part which is lacking is the user, a technically qualified user becomes part of the design development team or some sort of where he becomes. Similarly, let's say agriculture ministry, the technical guys involved with the agriculture team in some of like IDEX or something, whatever mechanism we create. Similarly, road and many other technologies we need to do. IC certification, I think we need not only for civil, we also need for military. Deliberations are needed to change from revenue, discussion from revenue, number of drones, drone applications, employment scheme to technology accretion in India. Is there any precedence? Yes. Federal Aviation Authority initiatives, you read, some of my papers are there. European Aviation Safety Agency of Europe initiative, even Civil Aviation Administration of China initiative, they are very interesting initiatives. And in military, read the AFRL, ONR, Army Futures Command, Army Innovation Command initiatives. Lastly, some of my papers where I have spoken about some of these issues, and if there are some gaps in these papers, I would be really welcome those inputs. Thank you.
Thank you for cutting down quickly. One of the things